Black Ops Cold War Zombies has been considered a very successful title so far, and one of the things that contributes to that is the constant flow of content into the game. But the majority of the content hasn't been in the form of new maps. As a matter of fact, that content has mainly consisted of things that are not new normal maps, and a big part of that content includes secondary game modes. We got Jingle Hells, Cranked, Outbreak, and everybody's favorite game mode, the one that has truly made every single Xbox owner shiver with envy and jealousy, the one and only Onslaught. Despite being the greatest thing to ever happen to humanity since the invention of wheels, Onslaught hasn't exactly been considered popular, nor successful. It also has a lot of pacing issues, and the gameplay loop is repetitive and boring. So basically what I'm trying to say is it's kinda shit. Okay, there's really no other way to say it. It's just not good. Like, at all. And if that wasn't enough, it's also a PlayStation exclusive, which means that not only is this game mode not as accessible as everything else in the game, but it's also the one thing that's used as an incentive for people to buy PlayStation consoles. Which means that even if this game mode is not good, the publishers are gonna make the developers spend more time and resources on this thing in order to generate interest. And that's time and resources that could be spent on making a new map or another game mode. Because Onslaught is the PlayStation exclusive content, they're gonna try and do whatever they can to make everyone like it. They're gonna push this thing as much as they can. And while I have no problem with Treyarch making an effort to try and make this game mode better, I think it's understood by now that this is not it. This is not the hook. It doesn't have the quality for it to be pushed this hard and succeed. And because they want to make it work so badly, what they do is they take Onslaught and change a single gameplay mechanic or two, and they label it as a new version of the game mode. And then they release it as new content. So by now, they've been quite a few variations, and none of them particularly changed up the gameplay by a significant amount. We got regular Onslaught, we got mystery munitions, we got containment, which I thought was the best one, and now we have a new version called Onslaught Accelerated. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's Onslaught, only faster. So how good is Onslaught Accelerated? Well, if you haven't guessed by the tone of this video so far, it's not very good. But let's talk about some details. So how different is it from the normal Onslaught? Well, it's much faster, but how does it manage to do that? Well, the one thing that makes it faster is the fact that the circle moves constantly. It never stops moving. So if you want to stay safe and not have your health depleted, then you need to stay inside the circle. And since it moves all the time, it means that you also have to keep moving with it. So you have to keep killing zombies and manage to stay alive while simultaneously chasing the orb to make sure you stay inside the circle as well. So it gets a little bit chaotic, and it stays that way throughout basically the whole game. And another thing that makes it more chaotic is the constant changes in the speed of which the orb travels. So it moves very slowly for a little bit, and then it has like a seizure and it starts to move a lot faster. Some would say that the orb accelerates. Oh. So, to sum it all up, the sudden acceleration of the orb is pretty much the only thing that's different. It's the same gameplay loop, it's repetitive, and it gets boring after a while. But because the game doesn't constantly stop in between surges, it's a lot less painful to get through than regular Onslaught. And because of that, it's better and more enjoyable than Onslaught. The problem I have with this variant is that it's basically just Onslaught containment, but not as good. The pacing is exactly the same, and the gameplay loop is very similar. It's just that in containment, there is no circle, so you don't have to follow the orb around the map, and chasing that thing can get really tiresome after a while. You get to a position inside the circle, and as soon as you do, you have to move, and you end up moving and running more than actually killing zombies and progressing through the game. So the pace is fast, it's just not as fast as containment, and it's not as fun as containment. You do have to be skilled in maneuvering around the zombies a lot more than you do in containment, and that's mostly because when you're following the orb, the zombies are right behind you. Then the orb gets to a certain corner of the map and it immediately backtracks, so you'll end up backtracking with it, and you'll be running straight into the zombies that were right behind you just moments ago. So you'll have to maneuver around them and you'll have to make sure not to get hit. And while staying outside of the circle is not too bad because your health doesn't deplete that fast, it does stop you from regenerating your health. So if you stay outside of the circle, The main threat is not so much the little health you keep losing the longer you stay outside, but more so the zombies hitting you and taking your armor. And they could very well down you if you don't get inside the circle and recover. The problem I have with the whole concept and execution of Onslaught in general is that the game mode itself has some fundamental flaws, and they just keep giving us different variants of it without fixing those flaws. So we keep getting different variations of a flawed secondary game mode. Onslaught is like a pizza that has shit for a crust. No matter how many different toppings you put on it, people are still not gonna eat it because the crust is made of shit. Overall, Onslaught Accelerated is a slightly better version of Onslaught. It's not bad, but it's not great either. And I just want to say, really sincerely, there can never be enough variations of Onslaught. This version is definitely not going to be the last one, and I have a feeling that by the time this game's life cycle is over, the Cold War Zombies menu is pretty much going to look like a shit pizza buffet. Onslaught will have taken over everything, and Cold War Zombies is pretty much going to be called Cold War Onslaught. Simply because when it comes down to it, nothing else is worthy. That is gonna do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments section down below what you think of Onslaught Accelerated. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.